China has knocked on the White House's door with an $8.4 million property deal just 650 feet from America's most powerful political address, triggering major concerns. Could Xi's new spy base be rising within sight of the White House as China-linked Foundation purchased the historic Securities Building? Chinese-linked businessman Philip Qiu bought a building in the heart of U.S. power, placing fresh focus on foreign ownership near sensitive government facilities and security infrastructure. Is the White House safe anymore as China's alleged spy zone spreads across America? Security experts warn that such proximity can create surveillance risks. A commercial property just 650 feet from the White House has triggered fresh national security concerns, given its proximity to one of America's most sensitive government zones. The property was purchased by a family foundation headed by Chinese businessman Philip Qiu, bringing scrutiny to the ownership of a strategically located building in downtown Washington. The historic Securities Building on 15th Street Northwest was sold for $8.4 million on July 21, placing the property in the hands of an organization with reported Chinese links. Security experts are examining Qiu's alleged connections to Chinese government and Communist Party-linked networks, raising questions over whether the purchase could carry wider strategic implications. Public records reportedly show that Qiu once worked as a detective for Shanghai's Public Security Bureau, a major law enforcement body in China. The Shanghai Public Security Bureau operates under China's Ministry of Public Security, placing Qiu's reported past role within a national policing and security structure. Reports also claim Qiu underwent specialized combat and sniper training, adding another layer of concern for security specialists assessing his background. Qiu has also served as chairman of the Shanghai Overseas Chinese Foundation, an organization involved in outreach and charitable work connected to overseas Chinese communities. His foundation's Washington operations are based around half a mile from the White House, expanding questions about the organization's footprint near critical U.S. government facilities. Security specialists warn that the property's location could create potential surveillance vulnerabilities, because buildings near sensitive government sites can offer sightlines and access to vital communications infrastructure. China-linked ownership of a building so close to sensitive U.S. facilities has therefore raised alarms, particularly amid deepening rivalry between Washington and Beijing. However, experts stress that there is currently no public evidence that the property is being used for espionage or any illegal activity. National security advocates have called for a closer investigation into the transaction and for additional safeguards to address any potential risk. The controversy has also revived calls for stricter limits on foreign ownership of properties near major U.S. government buildings and critical national security sites. China is reportedly being urged to speed up plans to mobilize civilian ships for military use in future wars. An article in Defense Industry Conversion in China said civilian vessels could provide critical support for Chinese military operations during wartime. The article said China's growing maritime security requirements and military needs had made the rapid mobilization of civilian ships increasingly important. Experts said Beijing should draw lessons from Britain's 1982 Falklands War experience, according to the South China Morning Post. Li Jin said, and I quote, "As China's national security and development interests continue to extend into the maritime domain, the growing demands for maritime rights protection and military operations have increasingly highlighted the critical role of civilian ship mobilization." Unquote. Britain had mobilized dozens of commercial ships within days during the Falklands War to transport aircraft, fuel, troops, and other critical military supplies. Li urged China to build a detailed database covering civilian ships, including their speed, cargo capacity, ownership, and available crews. The proposal also called for detailed plans covering command structures, communication systems, and the rapid mobilization of civilian ships during wartime. China was urged to conduct more exercises to test whether civilian vessels could effectively support military logistics and sustain operations during wartime. Experts also called for new civilian ships to be designed with features that would allow them to be rapidly converted for military use when required. The Zhenhua 33 semi-submersible vessel was cited as an example of a civilian ship that could offer significant dual-use potential during military operations. China also recently sparked debate after modular missile systems were reportedly seen aboard the Zhongde A-79, raising fresh concerns over civilian-military integration. These developments raised questions over whether Beijing could eventually transform parts of its massive merchant fleet into combat support or even frontline platforms. China's sixth-generation fighter has now shown off unprecedented maneuvers in new footage, offering another glimpse of a large tailless aircraft still under flight testing. The footage showed the Chengdu-developed aircraft executing a complex high-alpha move, moving through an extreme nose-up attitude before a sharp descent and recovery. The aircraft enters high-alpha flight at a demanding angle of attack, where airflow over its wings and control surfaces becomes far less stable and predictable. It then pitches over rapidly before entering a steep descent, requiring the flight control system to manage a sudden and dramatic shift in aircraft attitude. The jet transitions from high-alpha flight into a near-vertical dive, a move that can rapidly increase speed while reducing the pilot's margin for error. It performs a sharp recovery while maintaining aircraft control, avoiding an aerodynamic stall or loss of stability as forces rise during the pullout. The aircraft must rapidly manage changing airspeed and energy, preventing it from gaining too much speed in the dive or losing too much for recovery. It continues climbing immediately after recovering from the dive, showing that it retained enough energy, thrust, and control authority to regain altitude. However, recovering from the steep dive may be the most demanding phase of the entire maneuver, because the aircraft must regain control under rapidly increasing aerodynamic pressure. The flight control system must manage rapidly changing angles of attack, shifting the jet from an extreme nose-up condition into a steep descent and controlled recovery. It must maintain control as airflow becomes less predictable, particularly around a tailless airframe that lacks conventional horizontal and vertical stabilizers. The aircraft has to control rapidly changing airspeed during the dive, preventing excessive acceleration that could strain the airframe or complicate the recovery. It must withstand potentially high G-loads during recovery, as the jet pulls out of the dive and rapidly redirects its flight path upward. The maneuver must remain within aerodynamic and structural limits, ensuring high loads and unstable airflow do not damage the aircraft or cause a loss of control. The jet also has to preserve enough energy to climb after recovery, demonstrating that the dive and pullout did not exhaust its available performance margin. The maneuvers are even more striking given the fighter's unusual size and tailless design, a configuration that can aid stealth but creates serious control challenges. China's new fighter must overcome a major control problem created by its tailless design, because conventional tails normally provide critical pitch, yaw, and stability control. In tailless aircraft, pitch control is among the biggest challenges, with elevons and other wing-mounted control surfaces taking over functions normally handled by tailplanes. China first showed the new fighter's tailless maneuverability in footage released in June, when the aircraft appeared to perform a sharp turn and climb. The latest display now points to more sophisticated flight control capabilities, according to Military Watch magazine.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.